Okay, so the first pathway, if you receive the documents, or if you're on Skype, I shared my screen so you can just see it on my screen. But the first pathway I want to look at, and this really pertains to Henry, who's not on the call, but I'll just talk through it just that way if he watches the recording, um, is the aircraft maintenance pathway, which is on page 61 of the big document I sent you. This one's pretty cut and dry. It's just complete 3 credits, which are Introduction to Aerospace, Fundamentals of Aviation Science, and then take the Introduction to Aircraft Maintenance Tech course. And then I incorporated into this pathway, as well as the flight pathway, a new aviation capstone course, which will give you a lot of freedom in either the flight pathway or the maintenance pathway, just to do some sort of, that could be, in Dixon's case, that may be you prepping kids for the certification and have a lot of time for students just to work on that, or even have time during a capstone to go log hours at the local airport potentially.
And without reading too far, getting into the details of that, is that going to replace the commercial aviation course, or will that still be available on the pathway later on?
So in the maintenance tech, it does not exist, but
right,
in
all right.
it does exist in the flight. So that's still an option.
Yeah, I know we're just on the maintenance on 61 right now.
Yep. And then engineering co-op and internship are always an option in the maintenance pathway as well. So moving on to the flight and aeronautics pathway, which is page 62. This one didn't change much, other than I added the drones course in there, which is still waiting for a course code, so that's why it says TBD. And then we as a group kind of cleaned up the names a little bit to make it a little bit more fluid. So we have Introduction to Aerospace, and then Fundamentals of Aviation Science is kind of the core. And then down below, you can choose 2 of those courses. So if you want to continue on in aviation science or do the commercial aviation science course, if you want to incorporate some engineering, you could do the aerospace engineering course. And then you have the drones course, and then the capstone, once again, gives you a lot more freedom as far as picking a course would go. And then co-op and internship are always an option as well. Does anybody have any? I mean, I think that's pretty cut and dry. It's what we talked about at Bluegrass Airport and even before at the meeting previously. I just want to make sure that everything's, because this document goes live in 1920, but you'll actually see it this summer. So we're going to publish pathways and programs a year before you need them, and that way counselors have plenty of time to schedule and get kids into these pathways and program areas. So, but that said, the deadline for this document is this week, so we need to make sure it's kind of on it's the most accurate we can be, because it's going to be kind of locked in for the next couple of years. And then starting on page 63 are just the courses and the work that we did to change some of the verbiage that goes along with the objectives. So the first course is aerospace engineering, which we didn't do too much work on. That one was actually pretty decent. The next one is that aviation capstone, which really doesn't have, I didn't put any objectives in it for now. I think that's something that our group can work on next year to get some standards and some objectives in there. But I also want to kind of leave it open-ended so teachers have a course number to use if they're going to do something unique or a little bit outside the box. And then aviation science, this incorporates what we talked about in our 2 meetings this year. And then we did add, you'll see recommended grade level and recommended credit into this document, which comes out of another document. So rather than having 2 places to go and find information, it'll all be included in this one place for the 1920 school year.
So on that, we don't have any prerequisites on that.
Nope, but we can if you think that's important.
Well, that would be the introductory course, at least that.
Yeah, so you think on the aviation science we should put a prereq of the fundamentals course? or the introduction to
Yeah,
aerospace, or either maybe.
yeah, one of those two.
Okay, I'll just put I'll put an or and list both of them.
Mark, I say this. I think I've got this, but it didn't show up on your because I had opened it, but it was such a large file. But I don't have that second document, the one with the law. I've got the aviation course curriculum, which is the lead-in document. I could have sworn I'd opened the other one, but the one with the multi-page document. Do you remember what that you had sent that on?
It was yesterday, I believe. The document that I'm looking at is actually called Engineering Technology Education. I can forward it back out to you real quick. My email's been several people on the engineering side said they didn't receive several things that I sent.
Yeah, because I've got a handful of documents from you. I've got two of them opened up, but I don't have the third. I've got that transition document with
the crosswalk.
Yeah.
Yeah, it should have been in that same
got
email. I'm going to send it right back to you.
Yeah, and I thought I'd originally seen two attachments, and now there's only one attachment. Yeah, because I've got the industry search, and then I got the pathway conversion.
Okay, it's on its way back to you.
Yeah, it was on the two attachments on that one email.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Now I was looking to open it back up, and I only had one attachment. So.
Yeah, it's 91 pages long total.
Yeah, which is actually considerably shorter than it has been in the past. But and one thing we'll do once this document goes live for 1920 is I'll just send you just the flight section, which is only about 20 pages of this 91-page document. Yeah. Yeah, so I'll do I'm just making a note here to do prereqs on the aviation science course. And you think prereqs should probably be on the commercial aviation course as well?
Yeah.
Yeah, for commercial, I think, yeah. The other two, maybe not so much, but yeah, I would say list of prereqs for commercial.
Okay.
Like, yeah, you don't want somebody waltzing in when you're talking about some of the more advanced material that they may have already had, and hate that they transferred into the school or the program too late, but it'd almost be too much to, not the difficulty of the material, it's just the volume of it.
Yep, that sounds good. And then the next two are just the co-op and intern options that you can use if that's something your kids decide to pursue. And then on page 70 is the Fundamentals of Aviation Science course. So this is one of those that we actually worked on cleaning up the standards or down there at the bottom.
All right, yeah.
And then next is the Intro to Aerospace course. This one we also worked on those standards down at the bottom. And then we have the aircraft maintenance tech is the next one. That one I think should have prereqs as well, just because it's a junior level. We want to make sure kids aren't just being thrown into that without having those intro courses.
Yeah, they need the basic understanding before they get into these upper level courses.
Yep, I agree. How about the new unmanned aircraft systems course? This one's going to prep the kids for the Part 107 written. It's slated to be a senior level course, and this is the one that EKU will have a dual credit course lined up to this coming spring. So that one,
and that's the new one added into the state standards as far as benchmarks or industry certs too.
Yep.
So we got a new industry cert on this one, right?
Yep. Yeah, that's a new industry cert, as well as we added the FAA Rec Pilot written.
Right.
As an option as well in the flight pathway. Yep.
All right. Yeah. So I would say, since that's going to be an industry cert, I would say we probably need to make the minimum have a prerequisite of the intro and or the fundamentals.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly. Because on EKUs, you got to be at least 11th grade, 11th or 12th grade for EKU's dual credit. So I've got 3 of them taking it next year.
Yep. And this one won't lock you in. Like if you wanted to do a drones course or an unmanned aircraft systems course and not have the students doing that dual credit, you could still offer this. But I do agree that if it's prepping kids for an industry cert, and I need to fix. I'm not sure what happened here, but it says recommended credit is 11 to 12, so that should be the grade level. So I'll fix that once we get off this call. And that's it as far as the courses go. And then we do still have the aerospace engineering pathway, which is on page 18, but it didn't change hardly at all. The only thing we did, and not just for you on the call, but if you're going to listen to the recording, the only thing that we did, a big change, that one also has the drones course in it as well. And let me scroll up to it here real quick. And then we added some AP options. So if students are taking AP Physics or AP Calculus or AP Computer Science, they can actually use that as one of their credits in the pathway. Talking to our engineering industry folks, it's great that kids are getting the hands-on engineering side of things, but if they're not prepared with AP level coursework, they're going to really struggle when they get to college. And that's pretty much it as far as that pathway goes on page 18. It just starts out again with the Intro to Aerospace, and then Space Systems Engineering 1 is an option, and then Aerospace Engineering, Space Systems Engineering 2, and then capstone or co-op or internship or an AP course potentially. So it's pretty cut and dry as far as that pathway goes.
On the courses we've got versus ones we're looking at, I know we've got the capstone that's added now, and I know we're going to maybe work on that either over the summer and next year.
Mm-hmm.
What about fundamentals of aviation science too? Does that go away, or is that just one we're going to work on as we kind of move forward with the committee here? Right now, because I think we got fundamentals of aviation science 2 and commercial for me. Again, it's kind of for selfish reasons, but I could make the capstone fit to 2. It's one of those things in the curriculum I could make it work, but I didn't know if that course number was going to go away, or if that was something we were just going to retool when we all got back together.
I'm looking at this year's document. We had Intro to Aerospace, Fundamentals of Aviation Science, and then Aviation Science, and then Commercial Aviation Science.
Aviation Science, I guess we call it. That's our aviation too. And then commercial is we have for this year.
Right. I don't think we got rid of that. And something we may want to look at, and we did this on the engineering side, if you saw it up there in that aerospace engineering, the first course is called Engineering 1, the second course is called Engineering 2, mainly for counselors and parents to understand the order that these courses should be coming in. And I think our
counselor, he named it 2 instead of fundamental.
Yeah, it's still in there. It's just called, you have the Intro to Aerospace in the flight pathway, and then Fundamentals of Aviation Science, and then Aviation Science.
That's what we call aviation fundamentals too. Okay, so
yeah, and you have the freedom at the school level. As long as you're using those course numbers, you can call the courses pretty much whatever you want. So if you want to market them a little bit differently.
That's the one we're given, and we're duplicating our FAA curriculum, and that's the one we're chartered as an independent school for the aviation. I think just because they wanted a course number and they wanted their own standalone number, so I think they called it Aviation 2, but that makes sense. So I think it's just whether you call it potato or potato.
Yep. So it's still in there. It's still live and active. So it should be good. So other? Go ahead.
Well, I'm going to clarify on the progression, and this is strictly on flight. I know engineering, we've got a lot of folks looking at that. I'm just, for kind of the world I'm in, the courses we've talked about, I know we're adding a capstone, but so aviation science and commercial are the ones we still have to hammer out the final details on going forward.
Yeah, the standard, yeah, the content process area of them still needs to be updated. And the other ones are
Well, since
obviously,
we're adding the recreational pilot written, which is really close to the private pilot written, that
mhm.
I mean, I would propose that we could take any number of FAA syllabuses or approved ground courses and make that the aviation science course, because that would get students in a path to hit one or two benchmarks between the rec and the private pilot. And that's and we've already, I could even give you a copy of what we're using, but it's the one we've got for our FAA charter. It's just it's basically FAA ground school, and we
Yep.
just rename it on the state curriculum.
Yeah, and if we don't think it really fits in the aviation science course, we can always just create a new course and just call it, aviation ground school, and have a brand
Yeah.
new course that if schools want to do that junior, senior year, which that's where they should be heading towards or working towards anyway. Um, so yeah, that's something that we can work on. It'll be in the fall once, the budget at KDE is an issue right now, so they're trying to figure out how much money we're going to have for travel and that sort of thing to bring you guys in and do the work that we've done in the past.
Well, from the teacher standpoint, meeting with you and all the folks you brought in throughout the state, I think, and with NASI going belly up this time last year, if we're going to have an aviation curriculum, getting voices from Darrell, guys like you out in the state, me, we got completely different programs, but we're in the same industry umbrella. And
Yep.
NASI had a prepackaged thing, whether it was good, bad, or otherwise. I mean, we used it, but now if we're going to have something to use, we might as well get as many voices of folks that are going to be implementing it as possible. And shoot, I don't need a hotel room. If I can just get mileage covered, I'm good with that.
Yeah, and I don't
Did
think
that,
we
if
may have to
they could
limit.
cover my mileage. If they could cover a sub for the day, I could, I could suck up a tank or two of gasoline because it's what I do all day, every day for the year. So, if the travel budget, if it comes down to budgeting for travel, I personally be willing to make some concessions there because it's, not in it for per diem,
Sure.
but we really are kind of starting from scratch. Just we got to write one that we thought was a working model, before that we don't have anymore, and we're halfway through.
Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, I don't want this document just to become static that nobody actually uses. So it's very important to have industry looking at it as well as the teachers using it. And post-secondary, EKU is doing a pretty good job of aligning now 2 dual credit courses to this pathway, and that's another way that your students can become transition ready without passing one of those industry certs. Is if they take those 2 dual credit courses, they're also considered transition ready in the new accountability system.
Yeah.
So, well, I'm gonna stop the recording just because we're just kind of talking now.